All right. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to give people a few minutes to hop onto this live stream. Let people know that we're doing it. So hang in tight if you're watching the replay. And if you're watching the replay, please still comment and leave any questions that you might have about your pelvic health, period health, and I will try my best to answer them in the next live stream. Okay, so drop them now while we wait. All right, so welcome to the first ever Pelvises and Periods live stream. This is going to be a bi-weekly question and answer about anything pelvic or period health. So drop your questions either in the live stream comments, in the comments of this video if you're watching the replay. Like it, subscribe to it, turn on the bell to get notifications for when I'm going live. And yeah, I want to create a little pelvic health community here. So let's do our best. And I wanted to start today with two questions. And that is the two questions I get asked the most as a pelvic health therapist. So the first one is, what is the pelvic floor? And then I'm going to answer, what is a pelvic PT and what do we do? So first we're going to talk about what is this mystical pelvic floor that always gets talked about. So I'm a physical therapist, and as physical therapists, we specialize in like muscles and movement. So the pelvic floor is a very important group of muscles that is important as a foundation for all movement. So this is our pelvis, fun female pelvis, and this is your pelvic floor, okay? So your pelvic floor is basically all the muscles that run through the bottom of the bowl of the pelvis. There's actually 3 layers of muscle here. So this is our most external layer, and then our most internal layer visible there. This is actually the second layer visible through here. And these muscles encompass all of what you got going on down here. So rectum, vagina, urethra, and so on. And they're very important for all function of all the organs in this area. So the bladder, the vagina, the uterus, everything is very connected to the pelvic floor. Your rectum, bowel movements, all kinds of things. So when we're talking about pelvic floor, we're talking about this group of muscles. And this group of muscles is very important for all movement, like I said, because the pelvic floor is part of your whole core system, actually. So you have, we hear about the core all the time. What really is the core? Is a cylindrical box or tube, right? A group of muscles that encompasses our spine, essentially, to protect and create movement. Because we have a lot of organs and things going on. We have our spine and our spinal cord, so there's a lot to protect in this area. And your pelvic floor is the base of that core system. So on all sides, the core is made up of the pelvic floor on the bottom, the abdominals on the front, the back extensors on the back, and your diaphragm to cap it all off. And so all those groups of muscles create like a cylindrical box or tube, right? That's closed on all ends to help contain and manage pressures within the body and load within the body. And so that box is only as strong as its weakest link, okay? And oftentimes the pelvic floor ends up being a weak link because it handles a lot of load, right? Everything's sitting on top of it, pushing down. And our body tends to take the path of least resistance. So if you have a lot of load and pressure falling down on the abdomen and you have gravity helping that, then that load and pressure is going to wear on that pelvic floor. And it's going to become a place where pressure can squeeze through. So that's why we end up getting a lot of problems with managing pressures and coordinating things in the pelvic floor. That's also the reason why some people get hernias and things on their stomach, because their abdominal muscle at that point is the path of least resistance. And so pressure and everything pushes through and can eventually break through, right? Because we create patterns of movement. This doesn't happen from one time, one pattern of movement. It happens over time because our muscles constantly reuse certain patterns of movement. So that is basically what we're talking about when we're talking about what is the pelvic floor, is this beautiful group of muscles and all that they do to interact with everything going on within the pelvis. So yeah, so if you have any other questions about that, please drop them. And then we're going to move on to our second question, which is, what is a pelvic health physical therapist? So we're physical therapists, okay? We all did the same physical therapy training. Now all physical therapists graduate with a doctorate in physical therapy. And so we all went through that. We all have this general physical therapy knowledge of the whole body. Physical therapists are movement specialists, okay? We deep dive into muscle and everything that it does and how our body moves throughout school, and we become experts in the area, even more experts than many medical doctors, unless they're in the orthopedic realm. And that is our area of expertise over anyone else. And so when we become a pelvic floor physical therapist, we take special training within the pelvic floor. Some people get certified in pelvic floor specifically, but there's no requirement for that necessarily. That's just, something that some people like to pursue. But pelvic floor physical therapists all have their own special coursework that they've completed to learn more about the pelvic floor, because we don't get a lot of it in school. So it's really a project of passion, right? Anyone who's in pelvic floor is there because they want to be there, okay? And basically we treat anything revolving around the pelvic floor. So like we just talked about, the pelvic floor is part of the core system, right? So we are specialists in the core and how to teach you to re-educate those muscles and manage pressure and manage load better. So whether that's because you are leaking when you pick up your baby, or you're leaking when you lift 400 pounds at the gym, okay? So we teach you how to brace and manage and breathe to control that load, control that pressure throughout all the activities in your life that may be causing problems. So that being said, the pelvic floor muscles, remember, they help with all the things going on in the pelvis. So bladder control, rectal problems, uterine problems, vaginal problems, we treat them all, okay? So anything to do with those organs or the musculature, externally or internally, we will treat, okay? So pelvic pain, endometriosis, vulvodynia, vaginismus, incontinence of any kind, urinary or fecal, constipation, anything having to do with pregnancy and postpartum. We are the specialists in that. We have that special training. And we're all here because of the passion. So a pelvic physical therapist is usually a great person to talk to, a great way to get started if you are having any concerns in this area, whether you think you need a full course of treatment or maybe you just want a consult to see if that is what you're looking for. And throughout treatment, you'll get evaluated on the first day, which will be mostly external, but there may be an internal component, but that is totally up to you, and you'll discuss it in depth with your physical therapist ahead of time. We also assess the whole body. We're not only looking at the pelvic floor, we're taking a very holistic approach because, like I said, the pelvic floor is directly connected to the core system, which is the foundation of all movement, right? So we can't really address the pelvic floor by only looking at the pelvic floor. We have to look at everything, whether that's back pain, shoulder pain, ankle pain. It could all be a cause and effect situation based off of how you're managing load and pressure within your body. And so we look at everything, and then we'll treat you based on whether you need exercise, whether you need manual techniques, so using pelvic wands and dilators and things to relieve muscle tension, whether you need stretching or electric stimulation, which is not scary, might sound it. The list goes on. So pelvic floor physical therapists will treat you just like physical therapists will. So exercise, manual therapy, stretching, and progressing all of that through until you meet your goals. But with a special lens of being a pelvic therapist. Okay, so I hope that answered those two questions. I know this is probably not going to be my best work because this is my first time trying live stream, and we had some technical difficulties getting here, but please, 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 if you're interested in learning more about your pelvic or period health, I know we only touched on pelvic today. Next week, I'll probably talk more about my role as a period coach and how that integrates with my role as a physical therapist, but we will get to that later. But please, please drop some comments, questions, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you get notified when I'm going live. And I can't wait to start this community and answer more of your questions. So let me know what they are. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.